is Kyle Jeffries. I am the brewery liaison for Mother's Brewing Company, which is a kind of strange amorphous position, but it entails doing things like this, where I'm happy to talk about what the mission here is at Mother's Brewing Company. I also give tours of our facilities. I represent the brewery at events out of town, and I also work behind the bar here in our tasting room as well. Yeah, absolutely. So a big thing about the craft beer industry is this industry is a fast-paced and dynamic industry that is built off of people's passion, their creativity, and first and foremost, it's got to be built off of your love of craft beer. If somebody were to get into the world of craft brewing thinking that they're going to make $1 million overnight, they are going to be in for a rude awakening. So first and foremost, for Mothers, it is really about our passion for craft beer, but then also our love of Springfield. We are a production craft brewery, which is distinct from a brew pub, so we are focused on bottling and distribution of our beer more than we are focused on selling our beer out of our own tasting room. So most of what we're producing here is actually being bottled and kegged and then distributed across a region. But really what we wanted to do is we wanted to be Southwest Missouri's craft brewery for a larger territory. Everybody's familiar. St. Louis has their hometown breweries, Schlafly. You know, when you think of craft beer in Kansas City, you think of Boulevard, and Mothers wanted to be that brewery for Springfield and Southwest Missouri. Well, so our founder and owner, Jeff Schrag, he is the 100% controlling owner. This is his baby. He has lived in Springfield for decades. He describes himself as a serial entrepreneur, and he had always been focused on Springfield and particularly downtown. He was one of the early investors in revitalizing downtown. If you looked at downtown Springfield in the early 90s, it was definitely less vibrant and less alive than it is today. And he was one of the early innovators who was going in and rehabbing old buildings. By the time he came around to about 2009, he had started really thinking hard about opening a production brewery in Springfield, and he knew one thing for certain, that it was going to be in downtown. This was a further commitment on his part to the just revitalization of downtown and his love of downtown. So he knew it was going to be a downtown Springfield brewery. That was part of his commitment to his home. So brewing is interesting. In brewing, you have 4 main ingredients that you're dealing with. So the base ingredients are water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. That's it. That's all you need to make beer. If you are not a craft brewery, if you're a big industrial brewery, it's like Anheuser-Busch InBev or SAB Miller, they use a lot of rice in their brewing process. Craft brewery is a big distinction for us in the industry, is that we don't rely on adjunct grains like rice. It's these 4 traditional ingredients. Now, we can do anything we want to beer. We make coffee beers, spiced beers, fruit beers. We make an excellent cucumber saison that knocks people's socks off every spring. But it's those 4 ingredients. And the way it works is you can blend different kinds of barley. Barley has starch in it, naturally. So what we're doing then is we're taking this barley, we're putting it through a mill, and then we're adding hot water in our brew house. And in the process of adding this water, the starch inside the grain gets converted into sugar. And so coming out of your brew house, you have this nice high sugar solution. When you cool that down and send it over to the cold side of the brewery called the cellar, this is where you're adding yeast. And the yeast are taking that sugar in the liquid and they are converting that into alcohol and carbon dioxide. And this is where the beer is actually happening. So basically it's a process of starting with water and barley and converting starch into sugar and then feeding yeast with that sugar. And that's how you get beer. You add things like hops, which is a vining plant that produces little papery cone flowers. When you add those to beer, they add a lot of aroma and flavor and bitterness. So there's this incredibly complex blend of art and science that happens from all steps, from when you're starting with the base barley and what varieties of barley. Is it a dark roasted barley? Is it a lightly kilned barley? These all affect the finished beer. The way you add hops influence the bitterness of the beer and the flavor and the aroma. And then what kind of yeast? There are hundreds of strains of yeast. And each one of these changes the finished beer. So there's this simple idea, but through its expression, all this complexity gives you infinite variation. And so this is why, for example, in our tasting room, we have 21 different beers available right now that we make right here at Mother's. It's this infinite kind of complexity in the system that allows you to really experiment, follow your passion, and make the beer that you want to make. That actually changes day to day. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a really light lager style based out of the German Bavarian tradition. So we have a nice Helles lager. That's one of my go-tos just for a clean, easy drink. India Pale Ale is the defining style of the American craft industry. These are pale ales that are decidedly hop forward. The main aroma and flavor component is showcasing what the hop flower can do in beer. I love almost all India Pale Ales. We have several varieties, so typically I'm into hop forward pale ales. But this is also getting to be late fall, and we're starting to get a little bit of hint of winter coming on. So big, rich, high alcohol stouts, big dark black, thick, luscious, voluptuous beers. They're perfect for this time of the year. So yeah, I'm starting to sip on those every once in a while now. The best part of Mother's to me is that everybody who's here is here out of a shared sense of passion. This is not just clocking in, clocking out, punching a time card, good, time to go to the office. If you're working in the brewing industry, you're doing it because you have a passion for craft beer. So being able to share that every day with the 25 other people I work with, everybody has a shared sense of mission. We're all committed to the best craft beer we can possibly make. Mother's Brewing Company, Springfield, that kind of passion and commitment. It's a joy to be a part of that.